So, friends, welcome back to Hobby Vomit. It's me, Matt, and I'm very excited to be doing another book review for you today. So, today's book that I'm reviewing is Down in the Holler by Bridget Riley. So, before I say anything else, I do want to just be transparent that this Bridget Riley is the wife of Ian, who you may have seen on this channel. So, you know, take that for what you will. I am going to do my best to make this a completely unbiased review. I read this, from page one. I said I'm going to review this. However, I'm just going to give it a fair review. So, but I did want to put that out there just in case. So, if you've never been to our channel before, welcome. We put books through our BARF system here, in which we score 4 different categories. B is believable, how believable are the characters in their setting. A is appeal, how appealing is the book, or what makes the book appealing. R is rhythm, which has to deal with which deals with the plot and pacing of the book. And F is feeling. How did the book make me feel, if it made me feel anything at all? So we're going to score each of those 4 categories out of 5, and then I will give you, in a spoiler-free way, then I'll give you the final score, which is the average of those 4, and I'll pitch the book to you to see if this book maybe is for you or not for you. And then we'll dive into spoilers. So, like always, I'm going to read the back of the book. So, Down in the Holler by Bridget Riley. A cold case, a restless spirit, and a psychic detective determined to uncover the truth. Judith Temple, a hyperlogical software developer, has little patience with uncertainty and imprecision, but the apparently psychic visions she's experiencing have turned into something she can no longer ignore. When Judith finds herself drawn into a decades-old missing person case in rural Kentucky, she must learn to use both her analytical mind and her newfound ability, skill, gift, cursed illusion, to find the mysterious woman reaching out to her. All right, so that's Down in the Holler by Bridget Riley. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. This is the spoiler-free section. We are going to start with my score on B for believable. And I gave this a 4.25 out of 5. I really liked the characters in this book. I think they feel very fleshed out. They feel very real. That's not to say it doesn't have. I don't have a couple of complaints. I did have a hard time figuring out how old maybe the 2-ish main characters were. I could kind of intuit. So Judith is like it says, a software developer. Excuse me. And so I kind of knew like she wasn't above a certain age likely. I kind of landed thinking she was around 40. But and same with Tim, who is the sheriff in the town that she is investigating the cold case in. I thought both of them were around the same age, maybe 40. I think it turns out I talked to Ian a little bit, who asked Bridget. I think they're younger. I did have a little bit of a hard time gathering that. So there's that. But other than that, I really liked the characters. I think Judith felt very quirky. She kind of struggles with not being antisocial so much, but as just she looks up to her sister. I think up to her sister, her older sister. It may be younger actually, who's just very sociable, always knows the right thing to say, and Judith finds herself aspiring to be more like that. But she definitely has her little quirks to where she kind of deals with some anxiety, and she'll dig her fingernails into her palm to kind of ground herself, and she just feels very realized. She feels like a real person, even though she's got like psychic abilities, which I thought was really impressive. My biggest complaint with the characters is just I wish I had more time with them. Maybe, I wanted maybe even more of Judith's backstory with her sister or something, just to know more of her. Because this is really more of a novella, I think, than a full novel. So it makes sense why we don't get as much time with them. But I would love to see this in like a full novel form and really flesh them out even more. Let's see. I'm just checking my notes here. We got multiple POVs, which I thought was really fun. And yeah, the surrounding cast around Judith, so the people she's working for, maybe some of the suspects, and just the people in this little Kentucky town all felt real, mostly. If anything, like the setting, I really like the setting, but you're going to hear me talk about a lot of comparisons to Stephen King here, mostly because I feel like if you are familiar with Holly Gibney, Judith reminds me so much of Holly Still different enough, but very similar. And her relationship with Tim as they go on, as she meets Tim and like the bond they form reminds me a lot of Holly's relationship with Ralph Anderson. So I just couldn't I think I had a hard time separating myself from that. I just kept comparing it to that, which is, I know, not good to do, but they're so similar. And I think that's why I was kind of leaning towards feeling like Judith and Tim were maybe a little bit older. But with Stephen King, in something like this, I would have loved to see maybe just a little bit more of the town fleshed out as well. Because it is a small town, and I get that, but we really only ran into, like, 3 or 4 people. We never even saw other people. So I would have liked to see, like in Salem's Lot, right, you get those chapters about just the town and an existing, and it really feels like a lived-in town. This didn't really necessarily feel as much like a lived-in town. But, still really liked it. Really liked the characters. 4.25 out of 5. All right, next is The Appeal. I scored this a 3.75 out of 5. Psychic Detective is fun. It's funny because I'm always talking about how, like, well, I don't read a lot of crime, and crime isn't my favorite, and yet here I am reviewing another crime book. But I like the Psychic Detective twist on it. I don't need my crime to be grounded in reality. In fact, I probably prefer it not to be, because the more real it is, the more I'm like, man, it just is kind of depressing of like these types of crimes that do happen. But so the psychic, it lends a little, I don't know. It's not, I wouldn't say this is any less depressing or anything that happens, but it lets me, get sucked into a different world almost, which is nice. It kind of, it's not super grounded in reality because of that, the Psychic Detective aspect. So I liked that. I really liked the idea of the small Kentucky town setting. Like I said, I wish maybe it was fleshed out a little bit more. Other than that, I put good character work. That's appealing for me. I love good character work, and I think that's where Bridget really shined in this book. And conversational prose, very, very readable. But it's not too simple either. It just reads very nice, like it just flows, and I really enjoyed that. And there are some very like poetic moments, particularly with Judith's visions. I think are very they feel like a vision. They're written in a way that they really do feel like a vision. So I thought that was great. Other than that, nothing incredibly unique here, other than that psychic twist, which was nice. So 3.75 out of 5 for me. Next, Rhythm. I gave this a 4 out of 5. It's super fast-paced. I put maybe almost too fast-paced, which like I talked about earlier, I wish it was maybe longer with some slower moments here and there to just really flesh out Judith, and maybe even Tim a little bit more, or just the town, right? But it is a novella, right? So that's why I talked about it. I would have loved for this to be. I could have stayed with these characters for another 200 pages. This could have doubled, and I would have been here for it. So, plot was good, all the way through. It's very simple plot. She just go into a town to solve a case. I'm just reading my notes to make sure I don't spoil anything. I'll just say here in the spoiler free, I wasn't super in love with the ending. I'll talk about more in spoilers what aspects of that. It still wraps up nicely. I just wasn't super in love with it. And then, I'll save the last thing for spoilers. It did keep me guessing and second guessing on who did it and what happened, and I really liked that. And I think Judith was also questioning and guessing and second guessing, which felt real. It's not like she's Sherlock Holmes coming in here and she just looks around the room and is like, I know exactly what happened. So it felt real, and her and Tim working together to solve this case felt good. And then, the other two things I'll talk about in the spoilers. So, good plot. Nothing crazy. Good pacing, almost too fast-paced, but if you want a quick little mystery, you're in for a treat. And lastly, feeling. So I gave this a 3.75 out of 5. I put that, I think this could have been a lot higher if we got to spend more time with the characters, specifically Judith and Tim, in those slower moments, right? Kind because I think that she still did an impressive job of making me understand who Judith is and the struggles that she has in such a short time period. Tim, not so much. Tim was just like likable, but I would have liked to hear more of his past. But Judith, yeah, she's not. She struggles with some stuff, and I think she did a good job of that. I wish that I would have maybe connected with her a little bit more had I just had a little bit more. I'm keeping that from spoilers. Tim and Judith's friendship, that was very wholesome, I thought, throughout, and felt natural, where Judith is a little more standoffish at first, and Tim is trying to kind of break down those barriers. I like that. I felt some fear and suspense. There's some really suspenseful scenes, and there's some good, drippings of horror in here, I think, as well, with Bridget's imagery. And so I think she did a great job there. And then, I'll talk about the spoilers as well. Okay, so 3.75 out of 5 for feeling. Made me feel some stuff, maybe just not to a heightened degree that I would have had it been a little bit more fleshed out. So my final score here for Down in the Holler by Bridget Riley. Oh, I didn't do the math. Let's see, 4.25. I think it's a 4. 3.75. 4. 3.75. I don't know. It's math. We're going to round to a 4. I think it's a 4. The camera's on. I got to do quick math. I'm not doing it. 4 out of 5 for me for Down in the Holler by Bridget Riley. So let me pitch the book to you. Do you like true crime? Do you like cold cases? Are you okay with the psychic detective element? If you say yes to all of those, you'll love this little novella. I think it's great. Super fast pace. It's to the point, but still managing to have pretty relatable characters throughout. And good cast. It feels like the case is tackled in a natural way. And yeah, I enjoyed it the whole way through. If anything, I just wish it was a little bit longer, like I said. So 4 out of 5. Yeah, I think you all would enjoy this book. So, if you want, I'll talk to Ian and see if he wants to put up a link, or if Bridget is okay with us putting up a link to her book. You can buy this on Amazon or on her Substack, I believe. But yeah, I really liked it, for not being, this is coming from someone that doesn't love crime. This reminded me a lot of, I guess I should say that in my pitch too. If you like the Bill Hodges trilogy by Stephen King, or if you particularly like Holly Gibney, I think you'll really like this book. This gives me very, very big Holly Gibney vibes, but still differentiating itself enough. So yeah, that's Down in the Holler by Bridget Riley. And then let's just jump into the spoilers. This isn't going to be too long. I just wanted to mention a couple things that I couldn't before. So spoilers. If you've not read the book, go pick up the book. If you have, then welcome to the spoiler section. So, like I mentioned earlier, I think one of the hard things for me was that, and this very much could be because I just was so already like, oh wow, she's a lot like Holly. She's so much like Holly. Except for, right, Holly doesn't have those psychic abilities, but this is like Holly if she had psychic abilities. And so I just immediately latched onto the idea of that Judith is maybe like in her 40s, right? And a little bit older, still young enough to be a software developer, right? But maybe just kind of the high end of that. And I really had a hard time figuring out her age, so I just went with it. And then we meet Tim, who is the sheriff, and I also didn't know how old Tim was. I just couldn't tell, so I just assumed we were in the same age bracket. And here is my... There's two things I would say I didn't really like about this book. One is the ending with Tim and Judith, because this whole time I'm really loving their friendship, their bond. And it reminded me so much of Ralph Anderson and Holly, where it's platonic. It's very loving. They have a deep, deep love for each other that they have grown throughout their book. But it's not romantic. And here, this felt like this the whole time to me. It felt like, I wouldn't say they were flirty, they were just friendly, and Tim was breaking down those barriers of Judith, and it was this very wholesome friendship that they were forming. At least I thought so. And then at the end, it turns out, no, this is a romance. and I was just like, oh man, I kind of like it just took away from it for a little bit for me. Like I think that kind of love you don't see a lot in books. At least I haven't. But like I feel like if they had a platonic relationship, it would just be very loving and just great. And then the fact that we just kind of twist it right at the end to be like, oh yeah, but by the way, this is romance. I didn't really love that. So that was my biggest problem with Judith and Tim. And I would say I am less excited to see their relationship in the future. I don't really want to see it blossom. I would rather them just be friends who call on each other and help each other. But I know romance is popular, and I don't have anything against romance. This one just felt like throughout the book, I didn't get romantic vibes from them until it kind of told me it was a romance, and I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, that was probably my singular biggest problem with the book, just for my tastes. And then let's see, Granger. I think Granger was a great villain, especially because. Yeah, I put Granger's struggle is particularly interesting because of his past, right? He's so mentally just messed up because of the horrific things that his father did. And so, yeah, the mental health aspect of this book is interesting because I truly think that Granger, even though he murdered the girl, I think in his mind, he was solely like, I'm not murdering someone. I am just preventing my messed up, genes and stuff from being passed down. I'm truly preventing another generation of it. And if that means I have to murder somebody to do it, I'm willing to do that because I don't want to welcome that into this world, which is really sad. It's sad. Yeah. But I think it was believable. And I think Granger, it just kind of was like a shitty situation. Clearly very much in the wrong, right? doesn't excuse murder or anything, but you do kind of feel for him, and that's why I love in a villain. It's like I understand why he felt the way he did, and it wasn't just like a haha, I'm the bad guy and I murder people because I want to murder people. So really liked Granger. Really like Judith's struggles with being antisocial and struggling with her anxiety and trying to be more like her sister. I feel like that fleshed out Judith in a big way. And then Tim, really like Tim. He's just kind of like the guy, the sheriff. He was fine. I like, his warming up to Judith was nice. I don't know if there's like the scene where he takes her to the bridge, and it's just like, I'm like, Tim, don't shake the bridge, bro. Like, who does that? It's like, go out on the bridge. She's like, I don't know, I'm scared. He's like, go on out there. She's like, okay, but I'm scared. He's like, just go out there. And then he's like, I'm going to shake the bridge. I'm like, Tim, don't do that. Like, but I could see there are people like that, right? Like, he's just no harm, no foul. Like, he's not doing it to scare. He's just having fun. And I liked him. And I think that they kind of bonded over those moments. So really liked Tim. I just wish it wasn't romantic. I really wish it wasn't romantic, but that's the way it is. All right, and then the last thing I want to talk about was the very ending. I mentioned I didn't particularly love the ending for two reasons. One was the Tim and Judith romance. So their whole last kind of conversation, I was just like, didn't really love it. And then for me, there's the moment where, right, they figured out the mystery. They solved the mystery, which, by the way, I really liked that as well. There's a couple things here I wanted to mention. I really liked that Autumn's ghost started showing up to her sister and appearing to Judith, not because she wanted her murder to be solved, but because she was trying to prevent Granger from committing a future murder. So I really like that. Really like that. The thing I didn't love was after they solved the murder, it's like that moment of like with her, I think it's Judith and her mom sitting on the back porch and they're watching the backyard where Autumn has appeared to Judith before, kind of all like bloodied and like she has for the rest of the book. But this time she's all like pure and white and she's got her little baby with her and like, I don't know. I didn't love it. It reminds me of like, I don't know if anyone's seen Scary Movie 3, but like when they like they bury the body and the girl from The Ring, she's all like messed up and she appears all pure. She's like, you have lifted the curse. And it kind of felt like that. Like, I almost feel like it could have been done in a way that we didn't need. We know that they solved it. We know that. And I feel like Autumn didn't need to appear with the kid to be like, "Good job, everybody. We're good to go now. Thank you." So I didn't really love that. I think it could have maybe been handled a little bit differently or not so like right in your face. But really, that's I think that's it as far as things I wanted to talk about. I liked Granger's End. I thought that was really good. I really liked that Cindy, Autumn's mom, was the one causing the interference, and everything with Rock and Cindy and that whole thing, right? They make you think that Rock is involved, but then you think Granger's involved, but it can't be Granger because of this. But, it ends up being Granger, and she confronts Rock, and it's probably shouldn't, in a way that she shouldn't have. And I like that. Judith isn't perfect, right? And I think that is what adds to her character, and she really does something she probably shouldn't have done, and it causes some turmoil. And I like Rock's ending because him and Cindy reconcile, and they have grown through this process. But Rock isn't like, you know what, Judith, you're the best. We don't get that resolution because we shouldn't. It feels natural. But Rock and Cindy's resolution I thought was very good and very wholesome. And Cindy's whole, like, her causing interference, like, she also has some kind of ability that we don't particularly know. Maybe just the same one. We don't know, but it interfered with Judith. And yeah, I thought that was very cool as well. The sister I thought was fine, maybe just kind of a catalyst to get us going. And then, yeah, the trio that we interview, I think that's every character in the book. So yeah, that's, I wish we had maybe a little bit more, a few more characters, but all in all, I really liked the book. If anything, my biggest complaint is I wish I had more. So that is Down in the Holler by Bridget Riley. If you want to support an indie author, then be sure to pick this up and support Bridget. So yeah, thanks for watching Hobby Vomit. I'm Matt, and I will see you for the next review. Bye-bye.